Hello and welcome to the second lesson of this video series, which is called Learning Python for Beginners. So last time in the previous video, we looked at how we can download Python, how we can install Python on our computers, how we can set up our own development environment. We also looked at running a Python script, on how to run a Python script through our terminal, and we looked at installing Python on both of the operating systems, so on macOS and Windows. We also set up our development environment. So in this lesson, we'll continue from there, from our previous lesson. If you haven't watched it already, I encourage you to watch it. It's linked in the description below. So this lesson is on Python data types and operators. So all of the different types of data, or all of the different data types there are in Python, and all the different operators there are in Python, we'll be covering it in this lesson. This lesson may be broken down into like smaller videos, so there may be more than one video, or this lesson, I guess it will be, because it's kind of, we have a lot to cover. So it's going to be broken down into like various or numerous videos. So let's just get right into it. So the agenda of this lesson is basically to see or to learn what Python is. Why do we use Python? What an IDE is. So an IDE stands for an integrated development environment. It's basically our workspace. We're going to look into this. We're going to look into this in more detail later. We're going to look at what this thing is. print, print, followed by these two parentheses, the print function in Python. So we're going to be creating a simple script in our development environment, and we're going to showcase what this print function means and is in Python. Then we're going to look at the various arithmetic operators there are in Python. So all of the different arithmetic operations we can do in Python, and all of the arithmetic operators Python has to offer. And then we're going to look at variables, what variables are. So variables are a really important concept in programming. They're basically a way of storing they're basically a really convenient way to store your data and manage and organize it throughout your program. We're going to look at what variables are and what assignment operators are. This is a really important concept and a really misunderstood concept, especially for beginners, on whether on assignment operators versus comparative operators. So we're going to look we're going to look in detail on these topics. The next thing we're going to look at is variable types. So all of the different types of variables we have in Python. That's including strings, integers, floats, and so on and so forth. So all of the different types of data we have, and all of the different types of options we have to store or categorize our data in. Then we're going to look at type conversion. So type conversion is basically changing for example, let's say we have let's say we have a variable. So this is a variable. So let's just point like this red thing. It's on like this blue background. So let's say this whole white screen is a variable called a. So variable a is of type white, I guess. So the type conversion, basically we change one variable of a specific type to another type of variable. So let's say this variable a is of type white, so like the color white. We're going to change this using type conversion in Python, which we'll look into in the upcoming videos on how to change this variable to this variable, which is on the blue background. So type conversion is a really convenient way to organize our data and manage it and like change different variable type throughout our program. And we're going to do that by the type function. We're also going to look at the type function. The type function is a bit related to type conversion, but not that necessarily. So the type function, we're going to look into the type function. The type function, again, if you recall, we're also going to look at the print function. Both of them are functions. I'm gonna explain what functions are in a bit. So next thing we're going to look at is string methods. So string methods, basically, these are a type of, so think of it like this. So we have a string. A string is a type of variable. So we're going to discuss this in the next video. So a string is a type of variable. Let's say we have a string. Now in Python offers us a lot of different methods, or a lot of different kind of functions or things we can do on that string to manipulate it, sort of to like fit our own purpose. So we're going to look into what string methods are, and then we're just going to follow it by a quick summary. So let's begin. So Python, what is Python? Now Python is one of the most widely used programming languages in the industry. It's a powerful general purpose programming language with applications ranging from game development, web design, data science, AI, artificial intelligence. So Python is basically like the most popular language like on this planet. It's used in a lot of industries. It is also helping to really it's kind of has a really wide and a broad scope of where its applications range from. So whether it be in healthcare, in education, or any other industry, Python is one of the, if not the like standard language there is. So before we start learning about Python itself, there are two key ideas to keep in mind. Now these can get really confusing at first, but they're really nice and clean once like you get the hang of it. So the first thing first that to keep in mind is that Python is case sensitive. So unlike some other programming languages, let's say in this example, case sensitive, these two words. So in our first example, so all of the letters are not capitalized, they're lowercase. And in our second example, the first letter of each word is capitalized. So in Python, this right here would not equal this, because Python is case sensitive. So this is something that can really people who have never actually learned about Python, they kind of struggle with, but you kind of get used to it. So just remember that Python is case sensitive. So whenever you type in anything where that is capitalized or not capitalized, you really need to keep in mind about whether on your capitalization. So you really need to be conscious of your capitalization, because it can cause really small errors in your programs, which then itself can cause major errors. The other thing to keep in mind is that spacing is really important in Python. Now, because Python isn't syntax heavy in comparison with like other programming languages, it is like generally a really light programming language in my opinion. It relies a lot on spacing. So in Python, we use something called the indent, or it's not we use something, it's just an indent basically. So to separate each line, we use an indent, which is equivalent to 4 spaces. So just remember that spacing is really important, because whenever you need to differentiate between some of your code, like some code lines you have, some lines of code you have on what thing is nested inside what element, spacing really plays a big hand in that. So now this can get a bit confusing at first, but it's really nice and clean once you get the hang of it. So just remember that Python is case sensitive, so this would not equal this, and spacing is really important in Python. Spacing is like the essential part of Python that many of the people struggle with. So now let's move on to what an IDE is. So an IDE, shorthand for Integrated Development Environment, basically think of it as like your workspace. So it has all of the tools you need. So let's give an example. So let's say you're trying to create a chair. Okay, let's say that chair is our program. So in order to create that chair, first of all, you need the designing part. So what the design of that is going to be. So that will be like your research phase of that development, the whole development process. The second thing you would need to actually execute that plan would be to actually get some tools and some materials and some machinery to execute your plan. So that is basically I guess a shorthand definition of what an IDE is. It's like your workspace. So it has all of the machinery, all of the tools, all of the materials you need to create your necessary programs or your desired software. So there are a lot of IDEs available to download, and there are a lot of popular ones available online that we can use. So one of the most popular ones is called PyCharm, which I will be making a video on, not right now, but in the near future, so stay tuned for that. The other one it's really popular amongst data scientists and machine learning, like people who are starting to learn machine learning and deep learning, it's Jupyter. So Jupyter Notebooks is a, so I'm going to spend like I'm going to make about 2 to 3 videos just on Jupyter Notebooks, on how to use them and the different functionality of Jupyter Notebooks and the different use cases of Jupyter Notebooks are, so stay tuned for that. Jupyter Notebooks, we will be using them in the near future, but not right now. So right now, we're just going to stick to our development environment that we set up in our previous video. So if you haven't watched that, I encourage you to watch that first, because this is a continuation of that video. So we are going to use our development environment that we set up using Sublime and our terminal on the previous video to look at what we are going to do next. So the next thing we're going to do is to look at the print function in Python. So we're going to create a simple script in our development environment around that, and then I'm going to explain what the print function is and some other things in Python. So I'll see you again in the second part of this lesson. So until then, goodbye, I guess. Nay ko. Yeah. So I'll be seeing you in the next lesson, the next video of this lesson. So stay tuned for that video, and I hope you have liked this part of the lesson. If you have any feedback or any criticism, please tell me in the comments below, as like this is this whole stuff of like creating these slides and kind of teaching this way, like the format of like my teaching style, it's really new to me, so I'm slowly getting used to it. But if there are some elements that you don't like or you want to change or could be better, please let me know, and I'll see you in the next part of this video.